This recording is basically to summarize my findings with the Primerica organization company. And as you may know from if you've listened to any of my last recordings on this subject, I have been undercover within the Primerica organization here in the Macon, Georgia location, specifically here in the Middle Georgia area. And I want to share basically what I have found out, my findings, my verdict as to what this company is all about. And basically it boils down to this company being a pyramid scam. It's a pyramid organized company. This is not only in this area but throughout the organization as far as I can see, and it is basically a scam. Not only is it pyramid organized, but is a complete and utter scam. This is what I see. This is an opinion that I have that is basically unbiased. I have nothing against the people involved. I have nothing against the company. I do have something quite against people being used, the methods used by the company and by its members. I have issues with, the deception and the cover-up, the holding back of information, which is effectively lying. When you withhold information, you're effectively lying, and I do have a problem with that. And I also want to share basically what I have found out through a meeting that I attended, a training session, what they called a boot camp, a few days, well, more than a few days, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. And it was quite disturbing what I found. I found it to be cultish. I found a cult type of organization, a cult type of environment and atmosphere, not only in that room but within the organization itself, which has many members, perhaps over 100 members in the area, just in this area alone, in the Middle Georgia area, comprising of several cities: Macon, Warner Robins, Americus, Columbus, you name it. There are many smaller towns around that may have some members there as well. I am, as we speak, currently an agent. Not only an agent reporting and exposing the company, but also an life insurance agent, which I have a temporary license right now, working on my permanent life insurance license, and I am within the company ranks. Not sure how much longer I will hold out, and I will keep my cover, but I will do my best. But to go back to my main point here is to share my findings. I have found that the company basically employs tactics that are quite unethical, disturbing, deceiving, and by any means wrong and unfair. And they lay it out. They tell you very proudly and without fear what these are. I mean, they laid it out on presentation. They tell you straight up what the company is all about. But this is only, once you make it to this type of training which, people are, for the most part, already committed. They have already invested money, time, effort, and just basically have made commitments, promises of their allegiance and their continued support and basically an allegiance to the company. And there are three main pillars, what I call pillars, or methods that the company used or uses in this area. This is probably something that was passed down to the leaders of this region here, the top persons, which are called national sales presidents, and our NSRs, or national sales representatives, which is probably, as far as I know, the top position for Primerica representatives. And they tell you basically that three things are needed. They say basically a program, basically a program that was probably my up-lead, or the national sales representative that's assigned to me, my trainer, call me with a private number, but apparently hung up right away. Decided not to call, which I've been getting messages from him non-stop, and this is after he told me that I was going to be a independent, quote-unquote independent agent that's not going to be pressured, that's not going to be called or told what to do on a regular basis, which was nothing further from the truth. The minute I signed dotted line on the paperwork, that promise changed dramatically, which I will go back into that. I will develop on that a little bit, maybe on this chat. But to go back to my to the main three pillars that they advertise and they tell you is basically a formula that works without fail all the time. The three pillars are: one, that you must recruit. Recruit is the number one effort, or the number one priority for each and every agent. The second pillar is to have the recruits provide contact information to further recruit. And the third pillar is for employees to use the services of Primerica, meaning their insurance and financial services. Three pillars: recruit, use the recruit, contacts to further recruit, and then have the your recruits use the Primerica services. And they imply that it's just by these three things. This is outside of anything dealing with services, selling of the insurance. Without selling a single insurance, they can, or they say that you can make about $86,000 per year. Okay, and there may be a few sales there in the mix, but those primarily come from recruits, and that is nothing but a pyramid scheme. Nothing could describe a pyramid scheme better than what I just described as the three pillars that they pretty much laid out in this training session, boot camp, and advertised as being a very, very effective. As a matter of fact, can't go wrong with that formula. And just to go into them a little bit, into each one of these pillars, When I sat in that room and I finally found out, it was crystallized, verified in my mind what this company was all about, a pyramid scam. When they said that recruitment was the number one priority for each and every agent, my heart just sank, because right there I knew there and then that this company was just a scam and a pyramid scheme, a pyramid organized company, pyramid organized organization or company or group is nothing but what it says. It's a company shaped with a rank structure shaped as a pyramid, with a very minute minority up on top, making the vast majority of the profits, in an army of recruits and agents at the bottom, basically shaped as a pyramid. Very few on top make any significant amount of money. The ones, the vast majority at the bottom, are very low paid and hard worked individuals, basically abused and used individuals. And that is the case. That is what they know for a fact, especially the people on top management knows this. That's why I think they are deceiving, lying, and scamming bastards. They are con artists, meaning that they are basically conjurers. They are, they conjure situations that don't exist or that are far from what they describe. And that is, the basic description of a lie. When you deceive and when you say, exaggerate, or otherwise misrepresent a situation. And I'll go into that here also. But when they said that the recruitment efforts are number one, I was convinced, forget it. This is exactly what the Wikipedia page on Primerica says. It is a multi-level marketing company. Multi-level marketing companies are deceitful and very unfair by nature. They discriminate on the vulnerable and on the unsuspecting. They basically target the vulnerable and the unsuspecting, and they take advantage of those vulnerable and unsuspecting to help out the ones on the top. And they basically, through this cult of personality and this basically love and worshipping of riches and money, they basically recruit and transform other people, the vulnerable and the greedy, the desperate, to basically buy the dream and to become just like them, deceiving, lying, and basically exaggerate and misrepresent. And they basically use others in their situation or worse situation to better themselves and go up the rank. And I'll go into that also. So the first pillar to recruit, it is basically the best indicator of a pyramid scheme. If you see that anywhere, run for your life. Run the other direction, because it is a pyramid scheme. You will be taken advantage of, and the worst part is that you will be made to take advantage of others, which is even worse than being taken advantage of. And the second, just to move quickly through these, in the interest of time, the second pillar to to use your recruits' contacts to make more recruits. That is the first thing that came out of the mouth of the person that recruited me, or that I allowed to recruit. Because I came into this thing knowing what time it was, or having a very good idea of what it was. I've been reading about this type of company for a while. I've been researching, so I knew exactly what I was getting into. I had the time. I had a little bit of money that I could, spend for me to infiltrate and basically find out more about it. But it wasn't all negative. I mean, I do still have an idea, or at least a plan to at least use some of the knowledge gained, especially, the insurance and financial services knowledge for, myself betterment, maybe to help out others eventually. And who knows, maybe some of the services they provide are not necessarily harmful for everyone, so I may be able to help a person or two throughout my stay with the company if I do remain, and if I do pass the life insurance agent test, which I've heard is not a cakewalk. So just to go back to my second point, using someone's or your agent's contacts, you have to, as an agent, first thing they ask you for, this is their formula, give them 25 names of people that would be interested in joining, of people that you know in the area. And they don't even have to be necessarily in the area. They could be here in the United States, willing to be recruited. That was disturbing to me from the beginning, and I, to this day, have not provided this 25 list names list, 25 name list, and I don't think I will do my best not to. I will not provide this 25 names list, because I know the consequences of that, what the consequences of that could be. I mean, they're not going to be life-threatening to me or anybody else, but I'm going to be lying and deceiving people into something that is likely, very likely, not to be beneficial to them. And I just won't do that for personal reasons, and also to maintain relationships. I need my relationships intact, the very few I have, because of friendship and professional reasons. So if I want to damage any of those relationships, one thing I can do is sell them, either sell them a Primerica product or sell them a dream through Primerica that will likely not work for them, and it'll end up costing them money, perhaps hundreds of dollars, if not more. And again, I just won't do that. But they expect every agent to do that, and there goes so much for not being pressured and not being told what to do. They told me right off the bat, the day I signed up, that they expected me to come to meetings, come to training, come to gatherings and presentations. They very much expect everyone to bring friends and family. They expected me to come with my wife and meet the person that recruited me, most likely so they can recruit her and her downline, or her get names and friends from her as well. I mean, this is as slick and as basically as outrageous as it gets. These people have, no shame. They're bold, and they will, pressure you and put you to shame so you can give up. Basically, give them benefit, give them money, make them money by providing basically fresh meat for them to sell a dream. And they tell you straight up that you have to sell people a dream when you offer them recruitment with Primerica. And it is exactly what they say, a dream. It is nothing but a set of very fancy and lavish earnings that most people have never heard of, from $100,000 plus earnings that doctors, engineers, and scientists, and presidents, company CEOs have trouble making. Talking about $300, $500, $750,000 in a year, and up to millions, a million and up per year earnings. And this makes you wonder how true this is, for one, and makes you wonder how likely it is, how difficult it is to get to that point, even to the $100,000 level, which is extremely difficult to make it. Otherwise, you have to be a computer scientist, you have to be a nurse, professional experienced nurse or doctor to make that kind of money, or better. And these people are picking people from the streets without asking them any questions and telling them that they can make that kind of money. This is just a lie and a deception. When I went to my so-called interview with these people, they asked few questions, very few, and they had nothing to do with my qualifications, not even my likes and hobbies. It had to do more with where do I want to be, where do I want to go, how much money do I want to make, am I driven, am I ambitious, do I want to fulfill my dreams, do I want to make a lot of money? That's all they ask. They just want to, they don't want to make sure of anything, because no matter what your answer is, they're going to wrap it around and spin it around, dance with it, to convince you that you are the right fit for the company. And even though they did say no, to know who to pick, to know who to allow into the company, it's far from the truth. In reality, they will get whoever they can get to sit through their presentation. They will, as long as they have a clean background, they will sign them up in a heartbeat, because that's just money in the bank for them. No matter how you do after that, it is money in the bank for them. And it is, and again, another opportunity for them to get more contacts, more leads, sales leads for recruitment and insurance sales. So basically, they're trying to use, the second pillar is to try to use each and every but agent. There's a distinction there. There are no employees being hired by Primerica. Their employees are very few and far in between. The vast majority of Primerica's income earners are agents, independent, they call them, which are basically people that are non-paid, not on any kind of compensation program or plan. They're just people that are paid for each sale, a small percentage of the commission earned by that insurance sale or other kind of service, financial service sale. And I will go into the compensation, which is quite pathetic as well. And I'll do that a little later, hopefully in this chat. But they use, basically the second pillar is to use your recruits. They have this program, this plan, this little compensation bonus plan where if you bring within 30 days, if you bring 3 sales and 3 recruits, they give you like $300, which is pathetic. 3 sales and 3 recruits, that's selling 3 life insurance plans. You're basically locking someone up into a 30-year insurance plan that they will likely keep for a long time, perhaps many years, perhaps decades, paying premiums. And for what I've heard, they are not competitive, these premiums. You're going to lock somebody up for that long amount of time, and you're only going to make, maybe $100 from each sale. And they're not even paying you. This is as a new recruit with a temporary license. They're not even paying you not even $100 per sale, because you're basically having to write up 3 policies plus 3 recruits. So you basically, if you divide that, you're getting about $50 per policy and $50 per recruit. And again, this is from your 25 name list that these sales and recruits are coming from. Most likely, they are using you to make themselves money and give you crumbs. They are making, this is from their plan, they are making from each sale about $800 total. From that, you are getting $50. So where do you think the $750 goes to? It goes to your upline. It goes to your, the one that recruited you, which is, in my case, the National Sales Representative, the NSR, or the top position in the area. And it's disgusting the way they do this. They basically use you as a not only as a bait, but also use those that to use your name and your reputation with those people as a sales portal, as a sales pitch and man, to basically as a very, very dependable lead. And they are counting on scoring at least 3 people out of the 25 that you give them. And they put the pressure on you to get those 25 names from you. So that is the second pillar, getting those 25 names from you. The third pillar is to have employees use the service. Not only you, but the people that you help bring in are going to be pressured to use the service, because the first thing they'll ask you is, do you have life insurance? Why don't you? And how are you going to sell life insurance if you don't have any yourself? And how are you going to sell the company name if you don't have it yourself? If you have it yourself, then that is an excellent selling point. Truthfully, it is. But they are using this to make the company money and to have employees, which are to have agents, not employees, agents, which are now in the hundreds of thousands for the company, as policy owners. And if you have the agents and some people in their family with policies, you're talking about a pyramid that goes into the millions of people. So that gives you an idea, begins to give you an idea how this company works. That's why you don't see them on billboards. That's why you don't see them on advertisements. They're saving all that money because they're making it from your friends and family, from their agents and their friends and families. So that is the third pillar, to have employees use their services. In this training session I went to, they make the service sound like it is such a great service, a service that is only worthy of having if you're good enough, if you are if you have good enough income. And the only reason why they say that is because they know it is not affordable. It is not competitive. You cannot have it unless you make good money. They say it. They said it on that training. You cannot have it if you have too much debt. And that tells me, and I've researched this, that Primerica Services Insurance is not competitive, and it's not even whole life insurance. I've been learning that is the best type of insurance to have. It is term life insurance that is from 20 to 30 years. If you are 50 in 30 years, by the time you're 80, you're out of insurance. If you're 40, by the time you're 70, you're out of insurance. If you're 30, by the time you are 60, you are out of insurance. And this is for a 30-year term, which is their longest. And this is if you are able to keep up with their rising premiums, which are a complete disappointment and disadvantage. Rising premiums, they're not level as many life insurance policies have it. Level premiums are the best thing under the sun, because as money loses value, your premiums stay the same, and by law they have to remain the same throughout the life of the policy, and they are basically decreasing if the level is if the premiums are level. They basically decrease because the value of money has historically decreased over time due to inflation and other factors. So life insurance, whole life insurance, is the way to go. Something that is not being offered by Primerica. So just to move on into what my thoughts are on the organization of this company here in this area. The two individuals in charge of this organization have a cult environment and climate going on, a personality cult at that. They use the sway, the ability, the speaking ability of the head national sales representatives, which are two of them that I know of in this area. They use their skill, their people skill, their charm, their presentation, their talking skills, their public speaking skills to convince most of the time through religious anecdotes, through religious passages, through Bible verses, through religious convictions. They use religion, Christian religion in this case, to convince all these people, which are mostly working poor folk, that they're doing the right thing, that they must do the right thing, and to keep their dream alive of making millions. When they asked who was making $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year, even the higher ranks, nobody raised their hand when they asked who's making that much in that room. On a room of 100, over about 75 to 100 people, no one raised their hand. And that tells me that the only people making money are the national sales representatives in this area. They claim that they are millionaires. They claim they live the high life. They brag about it. They rub it in your face. They talk about their homes, their cars, the money they have in the bank, the money they make every month, every year. And they say that if they can do it, you can do it. That's the biggest fallacy on earth. No, if one person can do it, that doesn't necessarily mean everyone in a room can too, because there is just not enough to go around. There are just not that many positions. Not everyone could be national sales representatives. The company just doesn't work like that. The company needs an army of workers or agents doing the legwork. The national sales reps are not doing any legwork. All they're doing is speaking, doing training sessions, speeches, talks, presentations. That is all. And this is admitted, and this is basically coming straight out of them. One of them, my trainer, actually told me this, that he doesn't do any of that. And I kept pressuring him and asking him, how is it that sales are generated? And he kept dancing around the question, around the answer. He never did provide me the answer. I asked him, I pressured him and said, do you go to job fairs? Do you go to college campuses? Do you do cold calls? And he implied that none of those, that I would have to do none of those. And he implied that he had plans for me and blah, 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 and this and that. But it's basically to have me do the same thing he did. Deceive, lie, misrepresent, and sell people lies and dreams. And that's just not how I work. And even if I did, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to succeed at it. These are people living off of their agents. These are people living off of their agents' contacts, their agents' friends and family. And these are people taking advantage of the desperate. They said it in that training. They said that they love people that have young people that have a bloody nose from the corporate world and the educational world, meaning that they love people that are frustrated, that have been abused, used, and rejected by the corporate and educational establishments. But in fact, the corporate and educational environment is what they live off of. People paying premiums for their insurance, the insurance that they sell, the only thing they have, other than a few financial services here and there. They depend on incomes from, guess what, the corporate world, which is in main part largely made through education and training by the educational establishment. Colleges, universities, technical schools, private schools, public schools, you name it. They shit on education. They say, oh yeah, I know this person that has a degree, I know this doctor, I know this lawyer, I know this engineer that's making less money than me. Yeah, and also there are millions that have the degrees and the education that are making more money than you. It is funny how they don't mention those people, which are perhaps the majority. The majority of high income earners in the millions are educated, are trained, are doctors, are well trained and educated people through private, public, or universities, colleges, you name it. The vast majority. This is proven through studies, statistics, and all kinds of other verifications, and it is just known through all kinds of ways that education increases one's chances of earning more. Period. There is just no ands, ifs, or buts. There are a smattering of a few people that have made it without it, but those are in the vast minority. Those are just a few drops in the bucket. Okay, so, but they don't say that. They mention the few drops in the bucket and they go with it, which is deception and lying at its best. And going back to the cult type of organization, it's basically a cult using religion, using Christianity, and a few cherry-picked, hand-picked verses that they repeat over and over to convince the people under them, They basically are preachers convincing their subjects that what they're doing, what they do, is God's work, the Lord's work. And they even tell you about deception and even lies, that the only truth is what God tells you is truth. And if God wants you to go tell people what they can be, no matter how hard it may be, they deceive you as far as the amount of work and how hard it is to get there. They basically tell you that telling this to people, basically deceiving people, lying, it's okay, because it's what the Lord wants you to be. He wants you to be wealthy, powerful, and independent. He wants you to be a business owner. They basically laughably tell you that being in Primerica is being a business owner, but there's nothing further from the truth. You are basically a servant to your trainer, to your upline, which is your supervisor, your office manager. You are to report to that person often and daily, for the most part. You are to report your performance, your earnings to that person. And it is worse than employment, because employment is pretty much you do what you need to do, your job, and you're guaranteed an income. Over here, you do what you need to do, you do your job, and your income is still not guaranteed. They tell you that your income capacity is unlimited. That is the biggest bullshit I've ever heard. Of course, your income is limited. It's limited by your time, by your effort, by your energy, by how able are you to get sales, by how many people you are able to access. By it is limited by the type of people that you are able to access, the income level, what they call the market that you're able to access. You're not going to go to a very rich neighborhood and start knocking on doors. That's just not going to happen. If you do, you risk your life. Police will be called on you. Security will be called on you. You'll just simply not be allowed to solicit in these areas. And just accessibility is your limiting factor, one of your main limiting factors. And again, you have to pay the bills. You cannot depend on these factors. So most likely than not, you will have to work another job and provide as best you can, not only for your family but for Primerica, because you will be pressured to give up your time and money to the company as a agent. So the cult's atmosphere is quite disturbing and disgusting. They worship every word that comes out of the NSR's, the National Sales Reps' mouth. They agree with every word that comes out of their mouth. There is no kind of, just like a deity or some kind of, Messiah. There is no argument. There is no judgment. There is no kind of disagreement. The National Sales Reps are the last word, period, because they brag about how they've made it. They are on top of the mountain. You are at the bottom. How can you say that you want to do something different from what they say? If you were down there, they're up, and they're up there, and they've made it. You've not. How can you possibly disagree with them? And of course, they're also using the power and the credibility and the basically they're standing on the Bible, which is non-disputable, non-arguable. The Bible, especially in these areas where the Bible Belt is, in the Middle Georgia area, all these fanatics all these religious freaks, they cannot question, they will not question the Bible. And when a very well spoken and eloquent person comes around and by memory recites all of these verses and all of these passages that back up, pretty much verify and back up what they're saying about Primerica and how God wants you to be this rich, powerful person, independent and salesperson that recruits everyone that he knows or she knows. They use all these passages to basically solidify, crystallize in your mind that what you're doing is right, that what you're doing is righteous, and you're doing the Lord's work, as they say. It is very much an atmosphere of fear, of people that are in a rank structure, very defined rank structure, where servants, serfs, and masters are in place. And, it's a very defined pyramid that the ones on top create and enforce and say what the rules are. The ones on the bottom follow what those rules and steps are to make it to the top. And they are in the they are used and abused in the process. And that's another thing that's quite disturbing. So my verdict is also they use very loud tone, very loud speech, very loud and animated tones. They want to be the most animated person in the room. They want to project power over everyone in the room. That way they ensure compliance from everyone in the room. And those are tactics that are used and very well known tactics that are basically proven to work to control people. It is very much a controlling environment where people are subjects and their supervisors are using them, very much abusing them and using the ones on the bottom to make themselves rich, to maintain their lavish lifestyles with Bentleys and multi-level homes in very fancy and high-cost neighborhoods. And they tell you all this. One of the reps, the national sales reps, NSRs, was basically describing the other national sales reps' home and how much of a mansion it was, what the pool was like, what the house looked inside, how the house looked inside. I mean, he was basically putting a dream, a picture of lavishness and commodity and easygoing lifestyle with no issues, no problems, lots of money, no worries, no financial worries. And this is pretty much MTV Cribs type stuff, easy money, quick and easy money type of mentality that they put in your head. And again, nothing's further from the truth. They know themselves that it's very unlikely for anyone to reach that point, if in fact they are at that point, which I myself have some doubts about, especially when they say they're millionaires, they're worth this many millions, they're worth that many millions. I think they may be talking about their total worth, including their homes, cars, which probably they don't own, and including their life insurance value or face value, which is only payable at their death to their either estate or family or beneficiary, whoever that may be, and put together maybe like $500,000 home. They got a $100,000 car. That's $600,000, and they have let's say they have a very good $3 million policy. They say they're $3.6 million. They're worth $3.6 million. And let's just throw whatever savings they may have. Let's say they've done okay with their previous occupation and jobs, and they have $100,000 in the bank in retirement, both in retirement and savings, $50,000 a piece. So let's say they're $5.7 million. They're worth $3.7 million. And that's how these people say they're millionaires. I highly doubt that they have $3.7 million in a checking account ready to buy anything they want. Highly doubt it. A lot of that wealth may be in computer screens somewhere. However, they're not readily liquid. They're not readily accessible. A lot of it is 401ks, savings, IRAs, stuff that in CDs, stuff that's in investments that's not readily liquid, meaning accessible. They cannot just go to the bank and ask for 3.7 million because they will not get it. It's in all kinds of ways which are accessible only after retirement, and perhaps not even all of it, and some of it, at least half, to my suspicion, is in life insurance proceeds, which they are counting on, I guess, for their loved ones once they pass away. So this is my verdict of this company. I will be wrapping it up. Won't go into much more detail, even though I could go into a lot more detail. But I'll tell you this. Primerica will take advantage of you as an agent by using your contacts, pressuring you to perform for the company, telling you that you can do this and do that. But the reality of it is you're not going to make any significant amount of money through sales of insurance. If that was your plan coming in, you can just forget about it. You could be a super salesperson and go knock on 1,000,000 doors and get 500 sales in a year. What is 500 sales going to do for you when you're getting paid $100 per sale on average? $500. Think about it. Even if you made 200, even if you made $5,000. If you made 500 sales, that'll give you $5,000. That's not much. Even if you made 1,000 sales, that's $10,000 on average. And they say that, they even tell you, who makes $100, even $200, $300 per sale when it takes you an hour to write up a policy. Wrong. It doesn't take you an hour to write up a policy. Think about the time it took you to get in front of that person. Think about the effort, the calls, the late nights it took you to get in front of that person that you got that sale from, that life insurance policy closed on. Took about how many failures it took for you to get to that one closing. It may have taken you 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours to get to that one sale. So divide however much you made, let's say $200 into 80 hours to see how much per hour you are getting paid. Not a whole lot. And yes, you could be the best salesperson in the world. If you are, good for you. You're wasting your time, because if you are the best salesperson in the world, you could be making hundreds of thousands with many hundreds of different other companies throughout the United States. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps close to $500,000. If you're the super salesman that you think you are, which you may be, who knows, you are missing out, because Primerica is not will not be your biggest income earner. You will become rich with Primerica only if you lie and deceit and sell dreams to others, not only insurance. You will lie and deceit and sell the world to others that are unsuspecting, that are desperate, that are in need. How moral and right is that? If you're religious, how moral and right is that according to your religious book, whatever that may be? By lying and deceiving, by telling people this is easy and you can do it, when you know damn well it's very unlikely and not at all easy. Okay? And you're going to get them into something that will likely be harmful to them and to their loved ones. If you're willing to play that game, you can be rich. It's unlikely, but you can. But at what cost? And doing what? When you tell your grandkids what you did for a living the last 30 years of your life on your deathbed is selling insurance and selling dreams what you want to tell them? If you do, by all means, you can do it. And, good luck. But selling a dream and selling insurance is not exactly what kids dream about doing when they're growing up. And they're right. They rightly don't say that, because that should be something done. Basically, selling a dream shouldn't be done, and selling insurance should be something so automated that it shouldn't even need human interaction other than the people directly working for the insurance company. Paid employees with a pension should be the ones explaining you, not selling you, explaining you what life insurance is all about and what you need and what could be beneficial for you. They shouldn't be salespeople. They should be people representing you and your interest. Okay? And those people already exist. Those are called advisors, financial advisors, social workers, and also the insurance company people themselves. They can promote their company and their services themselves. They don't need an army and agent to do that. So this is what Primerica is about, folks. Primerica is a pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing scam that is out to use and abuse their agents, that is out to use and abuse the needy. They call it Middle America, their primary target. But in fact, it's basically people that are duped and forced, arm twisted into taking life insurance that is not competitive at all. And also, you're arm twisted to take insurance or financial services that are harmful in the long run, that are non-competitive and also harmful. They are unsustainable. So think about that. Think about if that's what you want to do with your life, time, effort, and money. Think about if that's what you want to expose yourself to being used. And think about if this is something you want your family to have, your family and friends, and your relationships to go through. So think about that. Let me know what you think in the comments of this chat. And we'll leave it at that. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. This recording is basically to summarize my findings with the Primerica organization company. And as you may know from my last, if you've listened to any of my last recordings on this subject, I have been undercover within the Primerica organization here in the Macon, Georgia location, specifically here in the Middle Georgia area. And I want to share basically what I have found out, my findings, my verdict as to what this company is all about. And basically it boils down to this company being a pyramid scam. It's a pyramid organized company. This is not only in this area but throughout the organization as far as I can see. And it is basically a scam. Not only is it pyramid organized, but it's a complete and utter scam. This is what I see. This is an opinion that I have that is basically unbiased. I have nothing against the people involved. I have nothing against the company. I do have something quite against people being used, the methods used by the company and by its members. I have issues with, the deception and the cover-up, the holding back of information, which is effectively lying. When you withhold information, you're effectively lying, and I do have problem with that. And I also want to share basically what I have found out through a meeting that I attended, a training session, what they called a boot camp, a few days, well, more than a few days, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. And it was quite disturbing what I found. I found it to be cultish. I found a cult type of organization, a cult type of environment and atmosphere, not only in that room but within the organization itself, which has many members, perhaps over 100 members in the area, just in this area alone, in the Middle Georgia area, comprising of several cities: Macon, Warner Robins, Americus, Columbus, you name it. There are many smaller towns around that may have some members there as well. I am, as we speak, currently an agent. Not necessarily not only an agent reporting and exposing the company, but also an life insurance agent, which I have a temporary license right now, working on my permanent life insurance license, and I am within the company ranks. Not sure how much longer I will hold out, and I will keep my cover, but I will do my best. But to go back to my main point here is to share my findings. I have found that the company basically employs tactics that are quite unethical, disturbing, deceiving, and by any means wrong and unfair. And they lay it out. They tell you very proudly and without fear what these are. I mean, they laid it out on presentation. They tell you straight up what the company is all about. But this is only, once you make it to this type of training, which, people are, for the most part, already committed. They have already invested money, time, effort, and, just basically have made commitments, promises of their allegiance and their, continued support and, basically an allegiance to the company. And there are three main pillars, what I call pillars, or methods that the company used or uses in this area. This is probably something that was passed down to the leaders of this region here, the top persons, which are called national sales presidents, and our NSRs, or national sales representatives, which is probably, as far as I know, the top position for Primerica representatives. And they tell you basically that three things are needed. They say basically a program. Basically a program that was probably my up-lead, or the national sales representative that's assigned to me, my trainer, calling me with a private number, but apparently hung up right away. Decided not to call, which I've been getting messages from him non-stop, and this is after he told me that I was going to be a independent, quote-unquote independent agent. That's not going to be pressured. That's not going to be called or told what to do on a regular basis, which was nothing further from the truth. The minute I signed the dotted line on the paperwork, that promise changed dramatically, which I will go back into that. I will develop on that a little bit, maybe on this chat. But to go back to to the main three pillars that they advertise and they tell you is basically a formula that works without fail all the time. The three pillars are: one, that you must recruit. Recruit is the number one effort, or the number one priority for each and every agent. The second pillar is to have the recruits provide contact information to further recruit. And the third pillar is for employees to use the services of Primerica, meaning their insurance and financial services. Three pillars: recruit, use the recruit, contacts to further recruit, and then have the your recruits use the Primerica services. And they imply that it's just by these three things. This is outside of anything dealing with services, selling of the insurance. Without selling a single insurance, they can, or they say